Hello and welcome. Today we're making one of my favorite chocolate cupcake recipes. This recipe is from the Hershey's company. It is the Hershey's Perfectly Chocolate Cupcakes recipe. So first, sorry for the gap in the content. I have a few recipes I'm working on and none of them are quite there yet. So to make videos more frequent, I'm going to do recipes like this from other sources that are not my own, but which I think are very good. So like this one, we'll look at what we need to make, and while they bake, I'll tell you why I like this recipe. I'm doing a half batch of 18 cupcakes today, so just double the measurements I show here for a full batch of 36 if you desire 36. This takes 1 cup sugar, 3/4 a cup plus 2 tablespoons all-purpose flour, 6 tablespoons Hershey's Cocoa, 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 of a teaspoon baking soda, a half a teaspoon salt, 1 egg, 1/2 cup milk, 1/4 cup vegetable oil, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, and a half cup of boiling or hot water. First, we need to preheat our oven to 350 degrees and put our cupcake cups in our cupcake tin. You really have to use cupcake cups here because these cupcakes are so airy and light, you will never get them out of the pan in one piece if you don't. So this recipe is super easy, and we really only need 1 bowl and 1 microwave-safe measuring cup or bowl for our water. We start by mixing all the dry ingredients in a large mixing bowl. You'll want to get it really mixed because if you don't, the flour can clump more readily when we add our liquids. I recommend doing this all at once, or like me, you can almost forget the sugar and have to mix it in after everything else is already mixed. As always, a huge thank you from me and the cats for all the likes, shares, and comments. It means the world to us. And if you're not already a subscriber, subscribe for more and hopefully more frequent videos like this. And as always, pictures of our fuzzy overlords. Now, we want to mix all the wet ingredients except the boiling or hot water. I like to add the egg first to break it up a little bit before adding the rest. I find it helps make sure that there's no egg that doesn't get unmixed. Unmixed eggs can be boiled when you add the water, so you don't really want any of that unmixed. You want to mix it until it's pretty much smooth. It might have a small bit of gratiness to it, but that's not going to hurt. This will help to start the sugar and cocoa melting and make sure that none of our powders are going to clump when we add the hot water. Now we want to add our hot water and mix till smooth. So this is where I do something a bit different than the original recipe. I microwaved my half cup of water until it was boiling, but instead of adding it immediately, I actually let it come down in temperature to about 165 degrees. The reason why is my baking soda activates at 170 degrees, so I wanted the lightest cupcakes that I could get here with the biggest bubbles, and so I want the activation of that baking soda inside of the to happen in the oven and not on the counter. I think as long as you're quick about it getting it into the actual cupcake cups, boiling water will probably hit almost the exact same amount. So once it is fully mixed, it'll look extremely watery like this, but don't worry, that's how it's actually supposed to look. And once it looks like that, we are ready to go into our cupcake cups. I used a gravy ladle to fill my cupcake cups. I always start by filling them halfway and then adding more to each until they're about 60% full, which actually was about the whole batch. I was hoping it would be a little bit cleaner since it had a pour spout, but sadly it was not to be. I think a normal ladle probably would have been fine here and probably would have made just about the same amount of mess. Once they're all filled, I took a paper towel and cleaned up the drips, and I was ready to go into the oven. And into our oven, which we preheated to 350 degrees for 20 to 25 minutes we go. Now, while this bakes, let's talk a little bit about why I like this recipe. From a taste perspective, it's not super sweet, which I really like. Most cupcakes I find to be very overpoweringly sweet, so it being less sweet is kind of nice. It's an adaptable recipe. You could swap out the cocoa powder for dark cocoa powder and coffee for the water, and you'd have some really nice, very richly deep flavored dark chocolate cupcakes, not muffins. Because we use hot water in this, it'll begin to set a little bit faster inside the oven, and it lets the bubbles stay larger instead of getting broken up and deflated, and that gives us a super delicate and airy cupcake. And finally, as you can probably tell from the baking footage, it rises and sets almost flat, so perfect for practicing cake decorating techniques and things like frosting decoration. It falls a little tiny bit in the center, but that is 1,000 times easier to compensate with when you're doing frosting than a bump would be. These stayed moist and soft for all of about the 4 days that they lasted. And with that, we have made what I consider to be some really great cupcakes, and I got to practice my terribly out of practice decorating skills. If you are practicing decorating, by the way, you can do as I did here and do a simple practice, which is to take any of these 16, 18, or 21 tips, where you can make a small star and try to get the height and the outside the same each time. As you can see here, even a few minutes of practice can make a big difference. The first one, they're all weird height, and then the last one I decorated, you can see they're mostly even. So that's a nice simple practice you can do, especially on cupcakes, that fits perfectly. So with that, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day and a great meal.